From the academy to the command post, the Weekend Wrap-Up podcast covers the leadership lessons, mentorship, and tough conversations needed to build a resilient firehouse. Rated as one of the best fire and emergency services podcasts, get ready to be empowered by host Kevin Ferrara as he presents another informative episode you won't want to miss. Get ready, folks. Here we go.
Welcome, everybody. You're listening to AFSO 21's Weekend Wrap-Up podcast. Here is your host, Kevin Ferrara.
If you've been involved in the fire service for more than 5 minutes, it's likely you've heard about Emmitsburg, Maryland, home to the National Fire Academy. The NFA is held up as the Mecca of American fire service education, being accepted into one of the Academy's many on-campus courses, most notably the Executive Fire Officer program. Well, that's treated like a rite of passage if you're climbing the executive ladder. But if you step away from the administrative offices, head towards the apparatus bay in your respective fire departments, if you talk to probies, fresh out of the local fire academy, the nozzle operators, the truckies, the rescue junkies, or the lieutenants and captains making instinctive decisions in zero visibility hallways at 3 a.m., you're probably going to hear a very different narrative. There's a widespread growing sentiment across the fire service that the National Fire Academy is not the premier source for real-world fire training. In fact, many firefighters consider it largely disconnected from the realities of modern fireground operations. Today, we're dissecting why that perception exists. We're going to talk about policy versus practice, theory versus tactics, and why the NFA seems to have shifted away from the operational fireground. More importantly, we're going to discuss the question every operational firefighter likely has lurking in their minds. If the best training isn't coming from Emmitsburg, where is it coming from? So, grab your favorite beverage and settle in, because this episode is going to be one that's likely to stir passionate conversations and cause conflict to rise, but in a good way. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to AFSO 21's Weekend Wrap-Up podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ferrara, and today we're breaching a door that, well, some people in the fire service prefer to keep shut. And I want to be entirely fair before we break down the criticisms. The National Fire Academy serves a purpose. It truly does. It was created following the National Commission on Fire Prevention and Control's 1973 America Burning Report, which highlighted the catastrophic loss of life and property to fire in the United States, 12,000 residents and 250 firefighters in 1971 alone. Congress passed the Federal Fire Prevention and Control Act of 1974, which laid the foundation to mandate the establishment of a National Academy for Fire Prevention and Control to advance the professional development of firefighting personnel. But the NFA, it wasn't built for everyone. It was built for administration, executive leadership, and high-level systemic management. If you need to learn how to write a federal grant, analyze community risk reduction, manage a $50 million municipal budget, or understand executive-level administrative law within the fire service, the NFA, it's a fantastic resource. But here's the core issue. Administration, it's not operational firemanship. The dynamic between the NFA and local rank-and-file fire departments is a frequent topic of debate in the fire service. Let's be real, often becoming tense at times. The perception that the NFA is disconnected often boils down to a fundamental tension between tactical, hands-on firefighting, and macro-level administrative leadership. And let's be honest, folks, most of you listening likely entered the fire service to pull hose, throw ladders, perform rescues. You know, the down and dirty stuff firefighters are typically seen doing in the public eye. Your focus, it's tactical and operational. Often labeled as the West Point of the fire service, the NFA doesn't teach recruit-level skills. Instead, it focuses on the 5% to 10% of the administrative workforce located in those ivory towers that require executive development, fire prevention, administrative management, budget analysis, emergency management, and community risk reduction as part of their daily tasks. Those here, they often wear white shirts adorned with maybe 4 or 5 bugles, some who haven't ridden a truck for years, if at all. These administrative roles lack external prestige and rarely involve heroic operational interventions. They're often obscured from public view until highlighted by a press briefing or institutional controversy. But nonetheless, these positions exert profound influence over the daily functions of a fire department. Individuals within executive offices or in proximity to municipal leadership possess the capacity to definitively guide a department toward operational success or systemic failure. This is the audience the NFA seeks to attract. Outside those clean, air-conditioned offices, the ones adorned with all types of fire department trinkets and memorabilia, the hungry, the beat up, the determined, those the public watch in awe breaching a door, hitting it hard from the yard, or laddering a second-floor window to make a grab as smoke and fire vents over their head. Those are the ones outside those offices. The primary complaints from these grunts regarding the NFA can be broken down into 4 distinct categories. First up, the disconnect from the nozzle. When that firefighter in the rear jump seat is slipping into their SCBA en route to job town, they're probably thinking about skills that will likely keep them, their colleagues, and the public alive on the fireground. The NFA doesn't teach how to hump a hose line through a cluttered, burning hallway in a heavy timbered taxpayer. It doesn't teach how to force a commercial roll-up door with an irons team under high heat, or how to make a rapid primary search without a hose line as conditions deteriorate. Rather, the Academy teaches framework, philosophy, and management. Next up, theoretical risk avoidance versus operational risk management. In the federalized curricula, risk management is taught through a heavy lens of liability reduction and extreme caution. While responder safety is paramount, real-world operational firefighting requires calculated, aggressive risk-taking to save lives. When training focuses almost entirely on reasons not to go in, or bureaucratic incident command flowcharts, rather than aggressive interior tactics, the grunts, the hose humpers, the truckies, and the rescue junkies, they lose faith in the curriculum. Next, the bureaucratic lag. Folks, it's well known federal agencies move at a snail's pace. Developing, vetting, and updating an NFA curriculum, it can take years. Meanwhile, building construction materials, they're changing rapidly. Engineered lumber, lightweight solar arrays, lithium-ion battery hazards, synthetic furnishings creating rapid flashover conditions. By the time a federal course is standardized, the tactics on the street, they've already evolved past it. Last up, accessibility and gatekeeping. While the NFA offers free tuition and stipends for on-campus courses, getting there remains a hurdle for many individuals and/or departments. The NFA campus has strict quotas, often long application wait lists, and prerequisites that disproportionately favor senior officers and chief-level personnel. A fourth-year firefighter eager to master engine company operations isn't getting a seat in a NFA classroom. They're left out in the cold. And if you're someone like me, a retired firefighter with about 39 years of proven experience, including various senior fire officer roles, but who isn't actively affiliated with a department, don't even bother applying to the NFA. In 2016, with a year to go before I retired from the Air Force, while sitting in a senior fire officer role at Air Combat Command Headquarters, I was accepted into the NFA's Executive Fire Officer program. All that hard work I put in during my military career, it was about to pay off. Sure, I was excited. I think my then fire chief was more excited, though. Unfortunately, the excitement quickly deflated when, after phoning the NFA to confirm my seat and explaining my situation, because, I was honest and upfront, I was told that if I began my academic journey in the EFO program, once I retired from the Air Force, I would no longer be able to continue my academics. Why? Because I'd no longer be affiliated with an active fire department. The individual, who was very courteous on the phone, told me that only those who are actively affiliated with a department can apply. Talk about a gut punch. So rather than attend the EFO program for a year and then be forced to step aside, I grudgingly gave up my seat, and in doing so, watched an opportunity so many strive for be taken away because of a controversial policy. Needless to say, the disappointment in the chief's office when I broke the news to him, well, it was obvious. But he didn't blame me, he blamed a broken system. After I retired from the military, I founded AFSO 21 LLC, Advisors to Fire Service Organizations. It's a veteran-owned consulting business. Wanting to better myself so that I could pass on more knowledge to the fire service that gave me so much throughout my career, I inquired about several NFA opportunities that interested me. When I phoned the academy, the individual on the other end, again very courteous, told me something I heard years prior. If I wasn't actively affiliated with a fire department, I couldn't apply. I tried explaining my situation, stating what AFSO 21 LLC did for the fire service community, but it wasn't good enough. I was told that I needed to be affiliated with a fire department, and it was suggested that maybe I join a local volunteer department and have the fire chief provide a letter attesting that I completed the prereqs for the course. Folks, needless to say, I was frustrated, especially when I was looking at the course page and I saw multiple vacancies. As a last-ditch attempt to get a seat, I even offered to pay out of pocket. Nope, not even that could convince the academy to accept me. So, if the NFA isn't teaching an operations firefighter or is willing to accept someone like me who has the experience and a platform to positively influence the fire service, then who is? When you ask the most respected practitioners in the fire service where they cut their teeth and learn how to fight fire, they don't point to the federal campus located just shy of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. They point to 3 distinct engines of training. First up, the kitchen table and company level repetition. Folks, the single most valuable training ground in the entire fire service is a department's kitchen table. That spot where probies are expected to sit and listen as the old salts narrate their version of events during the big one. Real mastery isn't achieved within a 2-week class. It comes from repetitions of small tasks like knot tying, donning and doffing PPE, loading and deploying hose loads, hydrant connections, apparatus spotting. A lieutenant or captain who spends 45 minutes every single shift drilling on the basics, they'll produce a far more capable crew than any institutional diploma or certificate of attendance can offer. Next up, regional training centers and state academies. While the federal academy stays theoretical, regional centers carry the heavy water for hands-on skills. Institutions like the Illinois Fire Service Institute, Texas A&M Engineering Extension Service, or TEACS, or major metro facilities, FDNY, Chicago Fire Academy, LAPD, LAFD centers. They have actual burn towers, acquired structures, and real-world props. They deal with localized building stock, like East Coast balloon frame homes, Midwestern taxpayers, or West Coast stucco construction. The NFA, well, they utilize photos of such buildings in their curricula. Next, we have the Grassroots Conference and Hands-On Training. Folks, over the last 2 decades, a massive grassroots movement has transformed fire training. Independent conferences like FDIC, the Firemanship Conference, and Regional Fraternal Order of Leatherhead Society, or FOOLS, events, well, they've taken over operational training. Why? Because they utilize instructors who ran on rigs yesterday. When you sign up for a hands-on training or a hot track at one of these conferences, you're not sitting in a small room lit by fluorescent lights, looking at those death by PowerPoint slides, sipping copious amounts of coffee just to keep you from nodding off. Instead, you're bussed into a training site where you'll don your own turnout gear, swing an axe, pull real hose, and likely burn materials under the watchful direction of instructors who refine their craft daily. But there's another major shift we need to talk about. For years, fire tactics were driven strictly by tribal knowledge. Those things passed down through word of mouth. Sometimes that knowledge, it was spot on, but sometimes it was based on dangerous misconceptions about how fire behaves. In the modern era, the best operational training comes from combining empirical science with practical hand skill. Organizations like the UL Firefighter Safety Research Institute and the National Institute of Standards and Technology, they've revolutionized fire training far more than any policy institute. They use thermal sensors, velocity meters, and gas analyzers inside full-scale structures to measure flow paths and air track management, the impact of transitional attack versus aggressive interior attack, coordinated ventilation versus uncoordinated ventilation, and hose stream propulsion and water mapping inside a room. The top-tier training institutions in the country today, they take scientific data and translate it into practical engine and truck tactics on the drill ground. So where does this leave us? Is the National Fire Academy useless? Absolutely not. The mistake is not the NFA itself. The mistake is expecting the NFA to be something it was never designed to be. Folks, if you're stepping into the role of battalion chief, assistant chief, or fire marshal, by all means, go to the Mecca in Emmitsburg. Take the administrative level courses, network with fire service leaders across the globe, and learn how to navigate municipal politics and executive leadership. And while you're there, be sure to visit the legendary Odd House. It's a local watering hole adorned with patches, badges, and pins donated by firefighters from around the world who visited or attended classes at the academy. And I put that shameless plug in there because just because I wasn't accepted into an NFA course, it doesn't mean I didn't stop by the Odd House on my way home from a trip to D.C. after rousing members of Congress about occupational exposure to PFAS. But if your goal is to be a master of your craft, if you want to be the firefighter who makes the split-second tactical decisions that save lives in burning structures, your training priority must look different. You need to master the basics locally. Repetition in the apparatus bay with your crew every shift. You need to seek independent hot training. Attend those regional hand-on conferences led by proven practitioners. You need to study fire science. That means reading research papers from cover to cover and understand modern fire dynamics. When you read these papers, you will learn and grasp so much that is not spoken about in a traditional classroom. And then you need to learn local building construction. This is extremely important. You need to walk your district's buildings while they're under and after construction, not just when they're on fire. You will learn so much by walking through a building that's under construction to see the framework of that building, things that you don't see when that building is on fire, things that you will retain when you roll up on that building at 3:00 in the morning. Be like, hey, I saw this during construction. These are things that you need to do. Obviously, get permission. Don't just trespass onto the property. Get permission from the builders or the property owners. I'm sure they will gladly welcome you onto the property to go through. But, folks, the best fire training in the world, it doesn't live inside a federal agency or behind a prestigious diploma. It lives in the relentless pursuit of mental and muscle memory on the drill ground, driven by firefighters who care enough to master the basics. So, folks, that's going to do it for today. If this episode brought value to you, please share it with others. And message to the firefighters listening, don't be afraid to speak your mind. Let your leadership know where you are and where you want to be in 5, maybe 10 years from now. Let them know that in order to get there, you have to receive their support and the right training. Message to the leaders listening, career and volunteer alike. The NFA is a good resource for you to hone your administrative skills, and I truly encourage you to attend the academy if you can. But be mindful, though. The Academy focuses on the 5% to 10% of the fire service. Therefore, it's up to you as a fire service leader to make sure the remainder, those you oversee in your respective departments and who look to you for guidance, are supported and receive the training they need to survive. And that will be the foundation for when they decide to climb the leadership ladder in pursuit of your position. You need to advocate for funding to send them to hot training, to conferences like FDIC, so they can network with other operational firefighters and interact with those who are positively influencing the next generation of firefighters. So with that, folks, until next time, keep your gear ready, keep drilling, and as always, stay safe. I'm out.
Thanks for listening. To follow Kevin and the Weekend Wrap-Up podcast from your favorite streaming platform, open the podcast description and then click the Support the Show link, or go to afso21.com. From there, click the Weekend Wrap-Up podcast link, which will allow you to follow the show, download episodes, learn more about our contributors and the podcast, subscribe, which gives you exclusive access to premium and/or bonus episodes, or support the show, where you can make a much-appreciated contribution of your choice. You can even click on the podcasts we love to build your personal podcast library. We here at the Weekend Wrap-Up podcast appreciate you and look forward to bringing you more episodes that support the work you're doing in fire and emergency services. Remember, click the Support the Show link or head over to our website at afso21.com. Stay safe.